and welcome to episode 4 of the Blue Jay Way podcast. I'm Chris May, joined as always by Jack Ryan. And Jack, today we have some interesting topics to get to, but we're going to start with something that happened about a week ago.
Yep.
And it happens every year with every MLB team, but there's a bit of a wrinkle with the Blue Jays this year involving one of their star players.
Yep.
And that is, of course, every year the arbitration figures come out, and every year teams reach agreements with players who are still early on in their kind of journey with the team, and they have to come to an agreement on salaries, kind of year by year. And it's arbitration time. So the Blue Jays, they reached agreements with 11 arbitration eligible players, including Cavan Biggio, Santiago Espinal, Danny Jansen. Even the new guy, Dalton Varsho, came to an agreement at just about $3 million. But the big one that was agreed to was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., $14.5 million.
But he got paid.
It was his first go around at arbitration for Vladdy, and that's a big number. You could say that Vlad has earned that number because he's been obviously the staple of the franchise. Had a couple good seasons, one great season, not last year but the year prior. But there is one player who feels he is deserving of more money than the Blue Jays are willing to give him, and that is one Bo Bichette. He is not one to shy away from expressing his value in his own mind, which is all good. But we may have some differing opinions. Bo thought he's worth $7.5 million in arbitration, which is just a bit less than what the Blue Jays determined that Vlad was worth. Which is something to note, the comparable between the two. The Blue Jays, on the other hand, say that Bo is worth about $5 million in his first go around at arbitration.
Yep.
So there is a $2.5 million gap that is going to be settled in the courtroom with the independent arbitrator. And hopefully there's not too much bad mouthing going on between the two sides in order to get it done, which you do hear sometimes in these arbitration hearings. It can be a bit cutthroat. It is a business after all. But Jack, I know that you are feeling a certain type of way about Bo and his request and his unwillingness to take the $5 million offer. So Jack, why don't I just let you take it away and sound off a bit here?
Oh boy,
interesting situation.
Yeah. Basically, I think that the Blue Jays were 1,000% correct in offering him $5 million for his first year of arbitration and not a cent more. Bo Bichette, for all of his plus upside with the bat, is horrendous on defense. The guy was second in errors last season, only behind Javi Baez in the entire of Major League Baseball. When they're paying a guy, they're not paying you for half of your game. They're paying for all of your game. And half of his game is, in a word, garbage. He's not a good defender. His WAR last year, I believe, was 2.5, which if you account for 23 of his errors, if you were to cut that number in half, his WAR would have probably been somewhere around 3.5 to 4. So he lost up to between 1 and 1.5 WAR just from his horrendous play on defense. So I have zero issue with the fact that he's valued by the organization at less than half of what Vladdy Jr. is, because here's the thing. Vladdy's won the Hank Aaron Award in 2021, and last year he won a Gold Glove. So he's proven he can do it on both sides of the ball. He can do it on defense and he can do it on offense. We know he can do it on offense. These guys hit moonshots all the time. Bo Bichette had a horrendous first half plus a month and a half, and then just turned on the Jets in mid-August all the way through September. So are we going to pay for that are they going to pay for that kind of production every season? Are they going to be like, oh, well, yeah, here's the contract, but you're only going to provide us offense above everyone else, be like, the guy was named player of the month and then for 1 month, and then everything else, he just dwindles off. So are we going to pay you, $7.5 million to, for lack of a better word, suck for the first 2/3 of the season, then the final third, all of a sudden you're an all-star again? It's like, guys get paid through consistency. And yeah, okay, Vladdy wasn't what we saw in 2021, but he still hit 30 plus home runs and 90 plus RBI and had a batting average above 275. He was consistent all year long. Bo is the definition of streaky, and he was streaky on the bad side for a lot longer than he was good last year. So that's where I stand. $5 million is completely appropriate, and the organization got it right.
See, I think that I do think that they're going to come to an agreement here, somewhere right in the middle. It's going to be about six and a half. I
give
don't
him
think
6.25. Give him
I don't think,
6.25.
yeah, like they're gonna come to it. This whole thing seems like it could be avoided slightly because you just know the arbitrator's gonna give right in the middle, or maybe even leaning a bit towards Bo's side, simply because of career offensive numbers. And there's a great piece out on this whole situation, the Shai Davidi of Sportsnet, and he does a lot of comparing in this article, and I think that's a fair way to do it with players in their first year of arbitration eligibility, very similar to Bo, playing shortstop, young players such as Dansby Swanson, Corey Seager, Trevor Story, Carlos Correa. These guys in their first years, they earned between 3.1 and $5.2 million. So around the range that the Blue Jays thought that Bo was worth. However, Bo is in the upper end of that list of guys in terms of offensive production up to this point in their entire careers. Okay. You're not going season by season here. You're going in terms of what they've done so far in their careers. And Bo ranks very highly amongst those players. So you think he's going to come in at the upper end of that, of those numbers, somewhere right around 5 million. Now, in saying that, the defense is a massive thing. Bo's defense is nowhere near as good as Trevor Story's, Carlos Correa's, even Javier Baez early in their careers. Obviously, a lot of those guys have seen their numbers tail off.
Yeah.
So you're like, based on comparables, you think that Bo would come in around 5 million. However, in terms of the Blue Jays, this is kind of where my thing is with what they're willing to do with Bo and not giving him 7.5 million. You're really telling me that Bo is worth less than half of Vlad. Yeah. That's something that kind of irks me a little bit, because I would say Bo is worth easily 3/4 of Vlad.
But if he's committing that many errors a season, where he's top 3 in Major League Baseball in committed errors, how is he worth Vlad if Vlad's a Gold Glove winner?
Not worth Vlad, but worth at
2/3. Okay, so then 2/3 of him would be, what would that be? That'd be 9 million, 8 million. Yes. I don't see it. I don't see them
2/3. I don't know if 2/3 is necessarily where Bo should be in terms of the salary, but I think at least half.
Okay, but okay,
if you pay
7.25, that would be half.
Yeah.
7.25.
Yeah, I think somewhere around the $7 range in terms of value for the franchise is very reasonable. I mean, I like Bo's willingness to kind of stand up for himself, and he's done this in the past with last season's contract extension offer that he turned down. He seemingly turned it down pretty without much hesitation. He said, "No, I'm worth more than this." And I think with Bo, he's still a developing player. I don't think he's a finished product, and I think he's a guy that works hard on his game whenever he can. And I think this offseason is going to be huge, and especially what you're saying, improving that defense, because there are holes in his overall game. I mean, at the plate, he's quite an impressive hitter. Like, you're looking at like ranks of these guys, these types of shortstops. Bo is at the top through up to their first year of arbitration eligible season. He's at the top of hits per game. He's second in home runs per game. He's third in RBIs, like averaged out per game through a whole season. First in runs. He's in the top 5 in every category. And you're looking at Swanson, Seager, Bogart, Story, Correa, Baez, Turner, and Lindor.
Yep.
So if you're looking at these young and up and coming stars, these shortstops, Bo offensively has cemented himself as one of the best. Now, we said for those guys in their first year of arbitration, they didn't get that much.
No.
They didn't get that much. Like,
I think the highest one was what, 5.1 million?
It was Baez at 5.2.
5.2. There you go. Baez.
I mean, times are changing in baseball. Money's going up.
Yeah.
But your first year in terms of comparables, I can see where the Blue Jays got their number from. I can see based on their kind of calculations, I can see where the Blue Jays got that number from. The only thing that sticks out with me is the number Vlad got.
Well,
number.
But the guy's so far and above clearly the guy that they're going to build the team around. It's not.
But I think Bo is important.
When they came up, right, when it was the Biggio, Bo, and Vlad show, we're not even going to include Biggio on this anymore because he's regressed exponentially.
He's not a cornerstone.
No, not anymore. Not
like
anymore.
Bo.
No. Well, I'd argue Bo's not even a cornerstone of the franchise anymore. I'd argue Alek Manoah has crept in and stolen that spot.
But I think those are the three.
Okay, yeah, but Bo's like.
I still think Bo's a cornerstone of the franchise moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I feel like Bo needs to look at these comparables and see that, it's just for 1 year. You go out and have a great year defensively and have a consistent offensive season. That number is going to jump. Yeah. Your value is going to increase infinitely. But as of right now, you had a very inconsistent season, a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah.
A lot of errors. And, those are massive factors when looking at, a guy's overall production. Mm-hmm. And again, comparably with all of these shortstops at a similar age, Bo is up near the top of the ranks of these players, but none of these players made $7.5 million.
No, they all made max. Again, max was 5.2 for Javi. So I think giving him 5 was exactly the appropriate number. And, say what you want about, maybe they did offer Vladdy a lot at 14.5, but at the same time, it's different because Vladdy wasn't drafted. He was signed out of the Dominican Republic. He has to be offered, well, not has to be, but usually they'll offer those type of players more money quicker because they didn't go through the draft. They don't have that rookie contract base that Bo would have because he was drafted. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, also, he's the corner. Vladdy is the guy they're building the team around. Like, they don't have to pay Vladdy and Bo a contract extension until Gausman and Springer's contracts are up, which frees up 47 million? Yeah. 25 and 22 million.
Yeah,
22
but
million.
They shouldn't wait that long.
No, they shouldn't. I agree. But I'm saying they don't have to pay them until they get that $47 million freed up.
And those extensions don't have to kick in to their fullest until those guys are off the books as well.
Exactly.
And
so
that'll be something they'll be looking at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in my opinion, though, I'm going to I tweeted this a couple of days ago when I found out the whole Bo Bichette thing. I said, in my opinion, right now, extending Vladdy and Manoah should be the top priority over Bo Bichette. I love Bo, but Vladdy has won the Hank Aaron Award and the Gold Glove Award in back-to-back seasons. And Manoah was a Cy Young finalist last year. Bo Bichette is an all-star. The other two are superstars. Big difference. Big difference. In my opinion, the other two are superstars. Manoah and Vlad are superstars. Bo is an all-star. He's a solid player, but he's not, with the bat, absolute superstar. But I'm looking at his whole package. His stolen base numbers dropped off the face of the earth last year compared to 2021. His batting average, consistent. His offensive output, consistent. His defense, arguably, was as bad, if not worse, than the previous season. He was an all-star in 2021. Wasn't last year. Santiago Espinal was an all-star last year.
Yeah, and if you look at what Espinal got in arbitration.
What did he get? 2.1 or something?
2.1.
There you go.
But he's older.
Mm-hmm.
He's
also signed
nowhere near as productive offensively throughout the course of his career.
No, but his defense makes up for that. See, that's the way they're looking at it.
Yes, that is the kind of balancing act that you have to run. I feel like offensive stats should probably make up a bit more.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at a guy like Bo who, is extremely talented offensively and puts up massive numbers, not just with home runs, but in terms of runs scored, how valuable that is for a team. And you know what, Jack, I do 100% agree with you in that Manoah has surpassed Bo in terms of value, and in terms of value for the Blue Jays. It'll be interesting to see what Manoah gets in his first year of eligibility, which I believe.
Not next year, the year
not
after.
Even next year.
The year after that, 2025, I think, is when he's eligible.
I don't even know if Manoah will get to arbitration.
No, he could get a contract.
This season seems likely.
In my opinion, if he puts up similar numbers, if not better, that he did last year as a Cy Young finalist, I'm signing him. Who was the last pitcher the Blue Jays had that was homegrown that turned into a full-on ace of the staff? I know who it is. The late, great Doc Roy Halladay. Yeah. And then what happened to him? They let him go. He went to Philly and he won a World Series. He threw 2 no-hitters.
I was going to say maybe Ricky Romero. but that wasn't for nearly as long.
No, he was a star for this team for what, 3 seasons, and then the pitching
Yeah.
coach changed his mechanics, and then Ricky was never the same after that.
Yeah,
But
he never reached that level where you were comfortable giving him the long term extension,
exactly.
even though he was the ace.
When it comes to Manoah, you cannot, pardon my French, cannot fuck this up. You can't give him these little dinky 1 year 4.3, 5.4, whatever the hell you want to give him, and then be surprised when it comes to free agency and you lowball him. You need to get him now. You need to get him at the end of next season. You sit him down and say, look, Alec, we like what you've done the last 2 seasons. We only see an upside to your game. You're more competitive. Also, dude, he's in the gym every day now this offseason. I've seen him. I think his plan is to lose a bit of weight so he can be more durable, because towards the end of the season, he kind of slowed down and he got lethargic a little bit. So him going into the gym shows his dedication that he wants to stay consistent and improve even more than he already is. So to me, that's like, hey, we're going to lock you in on a 10-year contract or an 8-year contract worth $250 million. Give him that 8-year 250. That's about 27 million, 27.5 million per season.
Yeah.
That's what I would give him. That's a competitive salary with any ace in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
It's not Garrett Cole numbers. It's not Garrett Cole, but they're also not the New York Yankees. We don't have Steinbrenner money or whatever the hell that the Yankees have.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The Blue Jays ownership, money. We can't understate how much money they do have. No. But let's get back to Bo a little bit, because I'm a bit worried about the relationship between Bo and the organization moving forward. I mean, I like Bo a lot, and I know that he's a confident kid based on his background, his family history in the game. His familiar with the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's good as well that he's familiar with the inner workings of all of this. I'm sure his dad went through very similar circumstances in terms of, contract offers, contract negotiations.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a bit worrying at this point that there's been so much kind of chatter around Bo and his place in the organization, and kind of his, especially last year, his kind of strong comments about the silly things that were going on and how he was not a fan of that.
You mean the home run jacket and all that?
Yeah, trade rumors with Juan Soto. So Jack, I'll ask you a simple question. When Bo hits free agency, is he even going to be on the Blue Jays?
My heart says yes. My head says no. My head says no. I think that especially if in this arbitration hearing, things don't go Bo's way, as far as like the arbitrator sees, oh, well, they offered you 5. We think you're only worth 5.5 or 6 max. If it doesn't go Bo's way and the arbitrator gives him less than 7, I think Bo will take that as a slap in the face, because he takes things really personally. He's got that Michael Jordan genetic in him, I guess, takes everything personally and then tries to turn it around and improve his game with it. But it's tough, man. I know that the relationship's kind of strained, especially now with this recurring issue with his salary and the money he's going to go after. So I can see them. I'd like to see them trade him for multiple players, or at least a lot of prospects, to help build the future, because I'm going to be honest with you, man, Orelvis Martinez could fill that spot at shortstop in a couple of years. So you keep Bo until he's ready for free agency, maybe, if you want to play it logistically, and then trade him at his highest value. Say he's having a solid start to the year by like June or July, just around the trade deadline. You give him to a non-contender who can offer him a lot of money.
This is tough.
Send him to Colorado. Let him play where his dad played, and they can give us a bunch of prospects.
It's tough because I like Bo a lot. I think he's got a lot to bring, and I think he fits right in with this group of young players that are coming up to kind of propel the team to the next level. Mm-hmm. I just worry about his, willingness or unwillingness to give anything to the Blue Jays to give an inch. And, I respect that a lot. That's the fight in him. That's the self-belief. That's extremely important. But he's not going to cut any corners. And now that you've got two guys that have, that sit above him in terms of the money allocation, I don't know if he's going to like that. I think he's the perfect shortstop for this team, barring a couple of defensive issues that hopefully we can get sorted out here. I think in that lineup with Vlad, I think those two, we've seen it. Like Bo gets on base and Vlad does damage behind him. And Bo is usually being cashed in on a lot of those big hits that Vlad has. And Bo, he, in terms of, he can produce himself. Like in 393 games, he's got 239 RBI. That's as a young player, making adjustments coming up from the minor leagues. That's incredibly impressive. And, I just hope that even if it's not, the mega contract that, we're seeing a lot of these other shortstops getting, I hope that the Bo and the Jays can come to some sort of agreement on a longer term deal. Because I want him to be here. Just me personally, I want him to be here because I've enjoyed watching him play. I think he's an exciting player, especially with the bat. He's a unique kind of player, and he frustrates pitching, and he makes a lineup a lot better.
I agree with your points. I really do. Yeah. But again, the way I look at this too, this offseason, this team's culture shift has gone from one side of the spectrum to the other.
Well, I think Bo's going to have to be a leader now too. I think he's going to have to be more of a leader than ever before.
But I think that he's also going to be happier with the clubhouse because, before it was, we're going to, Teoscar with the seeds and Lourdes mixing drinks at the end of the dugout and they're all, wearing the home run jacket, whoop-de freaking do, right?
Yeah.
Bo was the same as Don. We didn't even talk really about Don Mattingly in the last few episodes, but that guy's a no BS guy. He's like, hey, game's not done yet. Celebrate when we fucking win. All right. I don't want to see you guys laughing and smiling when we're only up by 3 in the top of the 7th. I don't want to see that. Right. And I think Bo's the exact same way thought process wise. Yeah. And Kevin Kiermaier too. Dalton Varsho as well. They don't have that like, oh, we just hit a 3-run home run. Let's do a little cha-cha and whatever the hell they're doing. It's like, no, we're still winning this game.
Well, Springer's still there. There's going to be some dancing going on.
Well, that's fine. Him and Vladdy can go hang out in the end of the dugout with Espy and whatever. But at the same time, I think that this culture shift, maybe that's also rather the reason the Jays didn't offer him. I'm spitballing. I really don't know. Maybe they didn't offer him as much money because they felt they didn't need to overcompensate because the culture shift has changed more towards Bo's liking and the way he approaches the game. Yeah, that's what I think is why they're like, hey man, we just traded 2 fan favorite players away. Plus an insanely good catching prospect.
And we also extended our manager, who is your guy.
Who is your guy?
He's all our guy. He's a good manager.
Yeah, we love John. John.
He's here because he helped you guys get to this point.
Exactly. And he's got Don Mattingly and Don Mattingly to kind of show him the ropes of how to be a manager, which I think that's exactly why they brought Mattingly in. But
100%.
This culture shift is going to benefit Bo, whether he realizes it right now or not. He's gonna eventually be like, so KK, Dalton, and Don all agree with the way I approach the game. Maybe they can take me under their wing and then let your game improve. Like the whole thing with the contracts is the problem I have, and we're gonna go a little bit into another sport here with the Maple Leafs. So you and me are both not Leafs fans. We're not Leafs fans, but it's the same thing the way that Kyle Dubas approached that contract. It's like, oh, Austin Matthews wants 11.6. Mitch Marner wants 10.5. William Nylander wants 6.5. John Tavares got whatever he got, 10.5. For what? You haven't won anything. If you win something or, make it out the first round, maybe we'll pay you. But it's this, I know baseball is a little different because it's a lot more individual statistics based than hockey is. Hockey's more of arguably a team sport.
And the arbitration process is
different.
It's much different.
Yeah, it's much different. So, but that's my thing is that if you haven't won anything, you're not worth shit, dude. Like, I'm not going to pay you $10 million, or in baseball, that's the equivalent of like $25 million or $30 million if your game's not complete and if you haven't won anything. I'm old school that way. I'm very Lou Lamoriello. I liked it when he was a manager or GM of the Leafs because he did it right. And then Dubas is just like, sure, you get a $10 million contract. You get a $10 million contract. Everyone gets a $10 million contract. There's a hierarchy in sports. You're not going to be as good as your teammate. That's why Mike Trout makes $36 million. And whatever, Taylor Ward makes 9 or whatever the hell he's making. There's a hierarchy to this stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. And I think the Blue Jays are showing that clearly Vlad is, it's nothing new.
No,
it's not like we're surprised by the number Vlad got. I think everyone was like, 14 and a half, whatever, give him 60. Like nobody cared.
People wanted to see an extension. Like, wait, you only gave him a 1 year on Arb. Why didn't you extend him? And he even said today, he told people that they haven't even talked, him and his camp haven't talked to the team about an extension. He's like, I'm just going to go out and play. And then whatever happens, happens. That's a guy to me that is like, I love the game. I love the city I play in. I love the team I'm with. I don't care about money right now. That's the guy you want to pay. That's, to me, is the guy you pay. You don't pay the guy who's like, I think I'm worth $2.5 million more than I am, even though I suck on defense. I'm sorry. I love Bo, but God, man, his attitude around this it irks me. It really does.
I know you've been fired up. You've been excited to talk about this. I don't know. Maybe if it's just my personality, I tend to be a bit more forgiving.
Yeah, you're more go with the flow than I am.
But I see good points in what you're saying, and that Bo, he hasn't proven. And for me, it's just like, look at the comparables. Look at what other guys
who are better defensively. Lindor is a Gold Glove. I think he's won a Gold Glove. If not, he's been a finalist multiple times. Correa's got great range. All these guys have great range. The other shortstop, Bogarts maybe is on the same plane as Bo as far as defensive capability, but Bogarts also has a career average of 310, which is 13 points higher than Bo's.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry. Something I should mention here is that Baez wasn't the highest at 5.5. Turner earned 7.45.
Mm-hmm. With the Nats or with the Dodgers?
So he went to arbitration a year earlier. He was a Super 2 player. So that's something to factor in. Mm-hmm. But in his first year, that was in his second year of arbitration. His first year, he got 3.725.
And now he's making
Lindor got 10.5. But
they went to the World Series and he was an impact player on both sides of the ball.
And by far had more games played. Almost 200 more games played than Bo. So they had seen much more from Lindor. And they, I think, had a better idea of what Lindor was worth. However, this is what I'm saying. I don't mind Bo at 7.5 because he is worth half of Vlad. He's worth more. He's worth more than half of Vlad in terms of production. But you're right. Defensively, accolades, that comes into it. I don't think team performance really matters in arbitration. I think it's more of what are you as a player and what do we value you as? I think that's really, the big discussion. I don't think it's much of, we didn't win last season. But I do get what you're saying. I think if the Jays had won, say, the World Series last year and they come into this arbitration, if Bo is a big part of that, I think they kind of say, all right, Bo, what are we doing here? You got us at this point. You're obviously a winning player. Your value is so much higher now.
Yeah.
So I see good points on both sides of it. I think this is all going to be a non-story.
You're
training.
Yeah. You're JM Ross Atkins right now.
Mm-hmm.
Come spring training or whatever, whenever they have the contract talks with Bo, right?
Like the extension or the
extension.
Okay.
He comes in your office with his agent. You invite him in, you say, Bo, I want to offer you X amount of dollars for X amount of years. What is the contract you're offering him? Well, at face value right now, he doesn't improve on defense. He's exactly what he is right now. Say he's the same on defense and the same on offense for the next 2 seasons until his extension. Or if they offer it this spring, who knows?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean,
what do you offer him? For me, for the whole of who he is as a player, I'm only giving him max $22 million. I'm not giving him a cent more.
I was going to say probably between 15 and 20 million a year.
Yeah. Because his defense is not there. He's not, it's not the same. As these other guys who got, Bogarts, whatever, he got the 11-year, $280 million or whatever the hell it was.
It's also, I think, sample size. Bogarts and these guys in Correa and these guys, they've had much more time in the league to prove what they are. With Bo, there's still a bit of a question mark as to what is he? Is he this electrifying top of the lineup hitter who gets on base, who slaps balls the other way, who doesn't, strike out?
Yeah.
Or is he the Bo Bichette that falls behind 0-2, swings at balls in the dirt,
Yeah.
and is consistently putting the team, behind the eight ball defensively?
Yeah.
I think with these arbitration hearings, I don't think this is going to mean very much come spring training or come talks with long-term extensions, because you get them locked up in arbitration for this year, you come to an agreement, and then after that, it's go out there and show us why you're worth more.
Yeah, prove us wrong.
We're going to put you in we've tried to, compliment you in terms of the people we've brought in personality wise, Matt Chapman to help you on that left side of the infield.
Yep.
I think that is also a big thing for me because they brought in Chapman to help Bo, and Bo got worse defensively.
Yeah, I think
Chapman there. I think it might have been an adjustment early in the season last year dealing with Chapman and just how much range he has over there. Yeah. But I'm expecting now that those guys have had a full season this year, there should be no question. There should be no adjustment period. Now you're locked in. You got to come out playing your best defense. And if Bo has a great year, I love it. I love it because it means the team's playing well, and it's not a bad problem to have if Bo performs. But I do see your argument in that Bo is probably not worth 7.5 in terms of comparables. In terms of what he does for the Blue Jays, he could be, but they're going to come. It's going to come in right in the middle. It's going to be 7.5 or 6.5, 6.25, and it's going to be a non-story. And then we'll reconvene at some point when more comes out about his extension talks, or lack thereof, or the team going back and forth with him about a number. He doesn't like it. We'll revisit this for sure. But that's kind of our back and forth there on the curious case of Bo Bichette. He's got a couple minutes left. So
we're looking at 7 minutes left. We can fit in a couple more.
So we went over Bo. We went over kind of who the Jays should extend first: Vlad, then Alec, then Bo. I think we're both in agreement on that. Just because of also Alec's a pitcher. You got two position players, one pitcher. I think you need both to win. I think you get your.
But I feel like starting pitching is also more of a rarity. In free agency to grab a legitimate ace. Yes, it is
also riskier.
Yeah.
But Manoah, it's worth it. He's that good, and we all know that as Blue Jays fans. Let's also quickly give a shout out to our guy David Phelps. Who has retired.
He has retired. Give it a little.
I still thought he could come back and do a job.
So did I. But him retiring opens up a spot in the bullpen for the younger guys like Zach Pop, which I'm fine with.
Swanson, similar, righties. Phelps didn't throw as nearly as hard as these guys, but I was a fan of Phelps. I wish him nothing but the best. He definitely didn't hamper the team in any way, even in his old age. He came in. I'm sure he was a good influence out there to the younger guys, and he did a good job. And then we've got some Blue Jays back in the city. Kevin Kiermaier, I think, coming up here for the first time. Chris Bassett, they're up here. Vlad's back, which is great to see. I mean, Vlad does not have to be here. I think that's something we should stress. He does not have to come back to the freezing, frigid temperatures up here. We saw him down there in his hometown in the Dominican, just hanging out, playing some pickup baseball, crushing bombs over mountains down there. It looked like a great time. But
at the Guerrero compound, his dad's house.
Yeah. And I think Vlad knows that he's really the face of the team, and he knows how much it means for him to come up here in the wintertime, to just show himself, do some team activities. I'm sure they're up there checking out the new ballpark too. Checking out the renovations at the Rogers Center. And I think that just, it's a little gesture from Vlad that, I'm here. I'm thinking of all the fans. We'll take an Elite game, getting the Jumbotron, get everyone fired up. And, it's good to see Bassett and the new guys too.
Yeah.
Showing some, willingness to come up here. I'm sure they're all down in Florida or whatever, just working out, having a chill time. But, it's good to see these guys coming together and getting to meet some teammates. And I thought that was cool.
They showed Bassett and Kiermaier their new lockers. In the clubhouse, which was pretty cool. Kiermaier even said on they were on national television today at at what was it, Breakfast Television with Sid 6
Yeah.
So they were just down the street from me here
Nice.
where I'm filming. And Kiermaier said it was pretty special because he's playing not just for a city, he's playing for an entire country.
Yeah.
Which,
I think that's a positive that the Jays should use more.
Yeah.
That you have the biggest fan base in the league.
Arguably, yeah.
Play here. You arguably have the biggest fan base in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very passionate fans. In the summer, Toronto was elite. I think people only think of Toronto in the winter and how cold it is, but in the summer, and when these guys are here, it's a very, very, very nice place.
When there's a Jays game on, the whole city's buzzing. Same with the Raptors in the winter and the Leafs.
I think that's a reason too why we don't see as many basketball players signing with the Raptors, in that their season runs throughout the winter.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. Yeah, but hey, if you're making millions of bucks, you can pay for a nice house with nice heating and a heated driveway.
Like even if you're a rookie on the Raptors, you can have a house with heating. I think they'll even swing you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I think, like to your point about with Vlad, coming up here and taking time away and spending time with fans really shows how much he cares about the franchise and the fans that support him and the team. So
he's always been like that.
Give me more ammunition to fire at, saying, sign this guy first. Sign this guy first.
I don't think anyone needs any ammunition with that. That's a lock of all locks, is that Vlad is the priority. He's the face. He is the chosen one. I don't know. You go on and on with these superlatives about Vlad because he's a generational talent, and we're lucky to have him. I hope the front office doesn't mess it up, but I don't think they will. I think everyone understands his value, and even he understands how much he means. And just little things like showing up to the old winter tour. It's a little gesture, but it means a lot to the fans. And have a superstar like that in the city, it's always fun.
Exactly.
He is our favorite son. When it comes to baseball, he's our favorite adopted son. And he's a great guy, great player. Nothing bad to say about Vlad. Nothing really bad to say about Bo either. It's just a little difference of opinion. Yeah. He's an elite player. He's a very, very, very talented baseball player. It's just, iron out some kinks. He's still a young player, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now with him, is that he's young, he's not finished, he's not perfect. Maybe sometimes he acts like he is, and I think that's what kind of maybe gets fans on him. But, I think he's got the drive and the desire to want to be better and to work on his issues, which are, it's no secret, is what he, doesn't maybe do as well as we would like him to.
Wouldn't you act perfect? Wouldn't you act perfect if you had hair like that, though?
Oh, yeah.
Walking around like that, just freaking just...
If I grew up too in that family, if the game it ran in the family, it makes complete sense to me. It's just, I hope things don't go sour. I hope they can, remain professional through all of it. I hope, it doesn't make Bo think that he's not being valued, because as fans, we value Bo. And I'm sure the front office does as well. It's just, little things, inconsistencies and, deficiencies where Bo can improve. Mm-hmm. So I think this has been a good little episode here, as spring training is coming. Pitchers and catchers reporting in less than a month.
WBC's coming up.
WBC, we'll have some content on that too. Mm-hmm. But I think spring training is going to be a good time to maybe look at the system a little bit. We had also want to shout out 2 left-handed pitchers on MLB's top 10 left-handed pitcher prospects list. Ricky Tiedemann at number 2, Brandon Barrera at number 9, I believe.
Yep.
So this has been something that the Blue Jays have been lacking. We'll get more into the prospect pool coming up in spring training. To our top 25, under 25. We'll have a list of that, and we'll get geared up for the season. But for this edition of Blue Jays Way, the Blue Jay Way, not plural. I'm Chris May and Jack Boutignon. Jack Ryan, sorry. Couple last
good.
Mix.
It's all good.
Jack Ryan for this one. So it's been great talking to you guys again, and we will see you guys soon.
Take care, folks.